Welcome back and thanks for tuning in. This is now video 14 for Just Make It, and today I am going to move on to part 2 for the drawer organizers. In part 1 I had made one out of acrylic, and today I am going to make one out of 1/4 inch hardwood plywood. And as I mentioned when I did the video for the dice trays, the reason why I'm choosing this particular material is I have a little bit left over from a job I did for a client, and I still have just enough left over to put together this. Now the reason for doing this, mostly from my perspective, is I want to see how much more work it is to make one out of wood relative to acrylic. I work with a lot of acrylics, so it is quite straightforward just to cut all the pieces and then weld them all together. And if you saw video 1, it doesn't take very long. I want to see how much more work this is going to be. I'm adding a little bit more work to this. I mean, cutting them out is pretty much identical to acrylic, except I'm not measuring the height of the blade when I'm doing the rabbets. I am just eyeballing it a little bit, making sure I like how much material is left. So instead of just working out all the measurements off like right at the beginning, I am going to cut the original pieces as I'm doing here, and then I'm going to assemble it with tape and measure as I go along. So I don't want to have any gaps, and that's the reason for that. There might be a little bit of variation from the last time I did this, so I want to make sure I don't want to have to use wood filler. That's what it really comes down to. So I added a little bit of time there, so I'm not going to count that. That's mostly just my fault. But I am going to keep an eye on how much longer this is going to take to assemble and all those other things. So here I have, I cut the main, these are going to be the main long pieces, and these are cut basically the same as I did for the acrylic. It's going to be, well, it has to fit the same drawer, so it's going to have the same overall dimensions. There's one small hiccup with that, but I'll get to that as we go along. So what I'm doing now is slicing the rabbets through this, and as you can see, this is a step that I didn't have to do with the acrylic. It didn't take that much longer. You're looking at maybe an extra 10-15 minutes, and it is very straightforward and easy to do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to assemble the first few pieces. These are, well, the two sides and the two ends, and I'm just going to tape them together, and that will allow me to first make sure everything fits properly, and then I'm going to cut the bottom and do the rabbets. I'm not going to show, I'm not going to film that. It's exactly the same as what I've just done and what I did for the dice trays as well. If you want to see that process, definitely just check out that video. So what I'm going to do here, like I said, I'm going to put this together, and then I'm going to measure exactly how thick this all is, and then I'm going to cut that sheet that you see off to the left. That's going to be the bottom. And then once I have that cut to size, I'm going to check it on this again, making sure, and then it's going to do a rabbet all the way around. And here it is. It didn't take too long. Again, you're looking at adding about a half hour to the process relative to the acrylic dice tray. Sorry, the acrylic drawer organizer, which you can actually see at the top of the screen there. I'm using it and I'm really enjoying its, well, it does the job. And I like the fact that it's clear. Obviously, when it comes to aesthetics, that is a personal thing. So people would prefer wood. And actually, I really do like the look of this wood. It is really, it's really nice. I'm not going to stain it or anything because I want to keep it relatively close in time to how long it takes to put the acrylic together. So what I need to do now is I need to make that long lengthwise divider that's going to go in this, and I had to do 2 rabbets. Now I had thought that because I cut all these at the same time, and because the rabbet is going to raise the bottom up just a little bit, there's going to be a slight elevation to this piece. So I need to trim that to the same height as the others now. And because I want to put a second divider in here, the one that you see in the main chamber, I want to cut those rabbets now. Because if I do it now, it's much simpler. I can get them all in place, make sure it's all, like I said, I'm taping this all together, making sure everything fits properly, making sure everything is cut in the right angles, and then I'm going to cut that last little divider, shorten this, by the way, because it has to be shortened a little bit, and then it is all ready to assemble. again, time-wise, I would have been done the acrylic long ago. That's fine. It's not that big of a difference time-wise. I mean, it doesn't take long to work with the acrylic, but this is not taking a horrendous amount of time. It is just taking roughly probably about an hour and a half longer, which I suppose is a fair amount depending upon how much spare time you have. So these are all set now. I like everything how it looks, how it all sets up. So I'm just going to take all the pieces apart and we're going to just do the glue up. Now, obviously, the main difference between welding acrylic and gluing wood is the acrylic pretty much sets up instantly. I don't have to wait, as I did for this, overnight. But again, not really a big deal because it is not something you have to sit around and watch. I just put some weight on it and made sure that it was all taped up properly, and then of course just left it there and then came back the next day. The biggest difference as far as time goes, and probably the thing that bothers me the most about working with this relative to acrylic, is after it's all done, after I've done all this, after the glue's all set, there's one step left over that you don't have to do with acrylic, and that is the finishing. It has to be sanded. It has to, all these joints aren't going to fit perfectly. They do with acrylic, which is really quite nice, but there's going to be slight gaps, and if I were being as exact as I could be with this, I would also, of course, fill the few small gaps that there were, but I'm not going to bother. Then, of course, all the sanding. And if I wanted, of course, to make this also look a lot nicer, I would also have to stain it, or as I like to put on, boiled linseed oil. So all those steps add a lot of time. But again, it comes down to what you like, what kind of appearance matters to you when it comes to this sort of thing. And that's really what this whole exercise, I think, was all about. So here you go. It's pretty much almost done now. I am going to just tape this all up. I'm going to be a little overzealous, I think, with the tape. But that's fine. It just holds it all in place. It'd be probably better if I had clamps for this. But I don't have anywhere near this many clamps, and it would be very difficult to clamp in all the dividers and everything else. So this is really quite straightforward, and I'm going to leave it upside down like this. I'm going to put a weight on the back here. I'm going to use a piece of, I think, 2x6 just to hold it down, and then it's going to put a toolbox on top of it, and that's it. Nothing else needs to be done to this. It'll just cure overnight, and then we'll pull all the tape off and have a look at it. And always, as we go along here, leave comments. Let me know what you think of this. Let me know what you think between the two. As far as the looks, functionality, I don't think there's really much difference in functionality, except for the fact that you can see through the acrylic one. And, of course, whether or not the extra amount of time really would matter to you. Like, it doesn't matter that this takes roughly 4 times as long to put together. It's not a lot of time. That's mostly because it takes so little time to do the acrylic one. We're looking at a couple hours of work here, maybe just a little bit longer than that. And of course the acrylic was like half an hour or 40 minutes, something like that. So there you go. It's all together now. And there's one error that you're going to notice. I'm going to do a little sanding. I'll do all the sanding off camera because it's long, it's tedious, and I don't want to bore you guys too much. I'm going to show you just a few seconds of it here. But we're going to do a test fit, and that's what I'm going to notice the error I had. I had measured all this. I should say I had taken the measurements I had done for the acrylic box that you see there, or door organizer, and that's what I used for the measurements for this, and it is too tall, which is not a huge pain, but I had to set up the table saw. I prefer to use my saw sled when I'm cutting small pieces off. If you watch my other channel, I've done that with acrylic many times when there's a slight piece sticking out, and it's very easy to do. But unfortunately, my blade does not reach high enough, so I had to take that all apart and make a special bracket for it because I don't want my fingers anywhere near the blade because I have to set it really high so I can cut the center one at the same time. Unfortunately, I did not film that. Mostly because I know I would probably get a lot of people saying it's not a safe thing to do, and they're quite right about that. It is something you have to be extremely careful about. And like I said, I didn't bother filming it because, like I said, I just want to show that it's not something I'd like to promote. I definitely need to make a different saw sled for my table saw, and I'm in the process of working on all that sort of stuff. But you can see the piece I trimmed off. It came off quite nicely and easily. Again, this is something I need to be very careful with. So there you go. This fits now, and there's 2 drawer organizers. I'm definitely going to use both. We'll see how it all works out long term. The acrylic one, I know there's not going to be any issues with whatsoever. But it'll be interesting to see how the rabbits hold up. So thank you very much for watching. Leave lots of comments. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. And bye for now.